Hello, it's Eric from E.M.B.R, and today we're doing stage 6 at Tour de Zwift, and I don't know if this route's harder for me to say or to ride, but Shisa Shakedown. I did it. Anyways, have a love-hate relationship with this route. I ride it every time I see it. If I'm honest, the route profile doesn't really suit my strengths, but it does stretch me, especially Temple KOM, where I'm usually sacrificing something to get to the top. So I guess I look forward to it because I know it's always going to be a challenge, and I know I'm going to go to the limit at some point, at least once or twice. But with that said, let's get it started. Pray for me. As usual, I'm going to time lapse the slower parts of the race and then put it at normal speed for attacks, surges, climbs, those sorts of things. There will also be chapter markers, and you can use that to navigate as well. This route starts off pretty tame on a flat, but while it doesn't show on the route profile, there is a climb up the hill right before the Shisa sprint, and that's where it starts to get a little bit spicy.
Did someone just use voice to chat and say comma, and the AI failed? comma chameleon.
And this climb isn't that bad, especially the first time around. It'll be far worse the second time around when it's the end of the lap and your legs are dead. But for the first time around, I'm mostly just staying in draft as always. And something I'll say, try to pay attention to at the top of my screen. I do have a watt, or I have a bunch of different things. I have watt per kg, I have draft, I have average power, etc. But the main one is draft average, and you can see in the middle of my screen on the HUD, I've got draft, live, but the draft average is something I'm trying to keep very high throughout the course of the race. And then my watt per kg, I'm trying to keep that as low as possible. So pack dynamics are a bit messy. This is another group ride, so I'm getting bumped around, but throughout this race, I'm definitely focused on draft. But after that punchy lead-in climb up to the start banner, things pretty much calm down again. You go down to descent, and just sort of staying in draft, trying to ride very efficiently off the power. Picked up an arrow. Mostly what I'm trying to do in the beginning part of this race, there's multiple sprint points. If you look at the route profile on the map, I'm trying to get a feather and then hold it for Temple. But at this point, got a sprint. I'm going to try to use it at least opportunistically on Cavern, which is the next climb. That one, I'm not as stressed about. Cavern, it's pretty draftable and it's early in the race, but it definitely is another above FTP sort of effort in the yellow and orange. It's going to take something out of the legs. So as we get it started, you see a bunch of feathers go off early. I've got an arrow. Even if I had feather, I wouldn't pop it here. I'm just trying to stay in the back again. If you look at my draft right now, I'm up to 140 watt average. This is definitely very draftable. You can see I'm keeping 60, 70, 80. The speeds are fairly high on this, especially when we're in the orange and red, pushing 300, 400 watts. I hit my sprint there on the little flat section to try to carry some speed into this, the incline again. More feathers are popping off. Wish I had one, but if you can't have a feather, try to draft off someone who has a feather. That's the next best thing, I guess. But yeah, throughout this, you can see 60, 70, 80, even 90 watts. Throughout the climb. Definitely a lot of orange and red, definitely a lot above FTP. I'm not worried about getting dropped here in any way. I'm just trying to mitigate the amount of damage that's done to my legs and repeatability. One of the nice things about this route, though, is while there are a lot of punchy climbs, there's also a good opportunity to rest and recover after each one.
Well, that was a easy climb. A little concerning.
But yeah, while you do get a chance to recover, I definitely need it. That's me sort of indicating first signs of it's not a good leg day. That first climb, it is red and yellow, but it took a little more out of me than I expected it to.
We're warm though.
So for the next bit here, I am definitely doing everything I can to get that draft number back up and my watt per kg down. I'm at 3.6, you can see, after that burst. Just trying to get that lower, or just put as little effort as I can, get the draft, take advantage of the draft as much as possible, sit in. Even at this speed, you may notice I'm getting bumped around a little bit. There are times where I'm just getting bumped to the outside. I'm trying to tail gun a little bit more so that doesn't happen. I don't think there's going to be any attacks in this part, but even so, you'll get pushed from behind and then to the outside and have to fall to the back to get back in. A little bit of annoying. That's just the way that pack dynamics are in group rides right now, but I'm sort of getting used to it, I guess, a little bit. Yeah, more of this is basically all I'm doing. I'm just waiting for Rooftop KOM. I have got another draft at the last speed, so here I'm going to try to spend that draft at the next sprint point, see if we can pick up a feather. Even if I get a feather, I'm not going to use it on Rooftop. I'm just trying to get a feather again for Temple when it comes up. At the end of this, though, you can see my drafts up to 123, my watt per kg's down to around 3.4. Pretty efficient, but it's about to get another burst above FTP here on the Rooftop. Reverse Rooftop is another sort of gradual, definitely high speeds, very draftable. I have a draft, so I'm going to try to use that the best I can, just sort of tail gun at the back. I'm also trying to get a sense for the field right now. This is a big, Tour de Zwift group ride, so I don't really have a feel if there's A-Cat, A+, what we got going on here. So I'm just trying to gauge how the front is pushing. Am I in trouble or not in this race? Based on how my legs were feeling after the first few climbs, a little concerned there. But as far as this climb went, yeah, more yellow, more orange, more red, a little bit painful, but easy enough to keep with, and I'm not feeling too bad about it. Really what I'm hoping for here, if we get to this banner and we pick up a feather, is I'll feel pretty good in general at that point. I'll be like, hey, we made it through the first few climbs and feather. That's good.
Thank you.
But the nature of Shisa is, again, is these punchy climbs, burst above FTP, sort of cumulative damage. Again, you get the chance to rest on these descents, but what I'm looking at now is get as much rest as possible because I got the 1-2 punch of Castle and Temple coming up.
I think we get up Castle clean, and then we've got Feather to try to bail us out on Temple. That's the plan.
The other thing that I try to do is on the slow parts like this, that's when I'm trying to fuel or get fluid in rather than when I'm going hard. It is definitely easier to drink when you're not gasping for breath, and it's also a little bit easier to digest the calories when you're not going full bore.
I know it's February, but Florida is hot again, and I am sweating on the porch.
And it's possible it's that heat to make me feel a little less strong on the day, but you can't always have the best legs. Sometimes you just got to do the best with the legs you got. And as a result, in this section here, I'm just trying to sit in, relax, hope nobody surges. I'd like to keep it as easy as possible.
We're down to 18. I wouldn't be surprised if half of this after Temple. And hopefully I'm on the right side of that half.
And I kind of feel at this point it is a bit 50-50 whether I will be on the right half, but just trying to sit in. The other thing I will say on that 18, that's the sauce overlay on the right. I put it there off the main Zwift screen as well as the video of myself, just so we can keep the main bit a little bit clearer. Hopefully that's a better format. Video format aside, I'm hoping I can sit in and rest here, but it looks like someone on the right's got a different plan. And this is one of those moves where one guy off, I'm not that concerned about. It starts to stretch a little bit, so I'm just trying to be near the front. If it becomes 3, 4, 5, I want to be on the right side of that break. Here I'm being, I see 1, 2 up the road. I'm thinking, hey, maybe we push a little bit. It can be 3 or 4 of us up. It's getting a little bit hard though, for sure. And second rider falls, so I don't want to be the one in the win. And the first guy is definitely pushing watts. Eventually, everybody catches up for the most part, and it's just one off the front, so I just fall to the back again. I'm fine letting one guy dangle out front, especially this part of the race. So sitting in, again, one guy out, then the second guy goes. I didn't snap to that. Now there's 2 off the front, and there's a gap, and I don't want to be the one pushing, so I'm sitting in. I'm kind of at the front. I'm like trying to get the field to go a little faster, but not be the one doing the work. It's a little bit rough, and you can see that gap again. If you look at sauce on the right, it's 10 seconds, 11 seconds, 12. It keeps growing. We're just not going fast, and those 2 up the front are. For me though, it's still, I need to be rested before we hit the castle and temple KOM back to back. So I can't be pushing and trying to close that gap. I've got to hope the field does it. Also hope maybe those guys, just there's only 2 of them against the rest of us, that they're going to have to do too much work once we do get to the castle KOM and climbs. But yeah, overall, sitting in, wishing the pace is a little bit faster. And you see me sometimes get pushed to the outside here. I'm trying to encourage some work at the front. But especially with these pack dynamics, you just get pushed to the left and right anytime you do that. So I end up, it's like, hey, I'm not at the front, but I'm still on the left or the right, eating wind. So at the end of the day, you see me hard steering there and trying to push in and make sure I'm in draft. But it's just a pain in the butt in the new pack dynamics. We do hit the KOM though, beginning there, and at this point, there's one guy that's starting to push some power, and I'm definitely going to follow that and see how things go. And my hopes here are that now that we're on the climb, we're going to pick up the pace as a field and maybe start to close the gap up there. You can see it's 21 seconds as we head into this KOM. I still don't want to be the one driving the pace. This is definitely a draftable climb. You can see me 90, 92, 90 plus watts here by sitting in and not driving the front. So, and I need every bit of watt savings I can. I'm still pushing 400 plus watts even with that extra draft. Hey, S-Works Evade helmet. Gotta love it. But yeah, I don't mind being second wheel. Occasionally there I got popped out, but I'm trying not to catch the wind, trying to be in draft. Even through these turns here, sit back, tail gun as much as possible. Save the feather. You see a lot of feathers and power up coming. I want to save my feather. If I don't need, like, the only way I'm going to pop it on this climb is I'm getting dropped. And I'm not getting dropped, so I want to hold it till temple. That's where I think the real selection point is and when I'm going to need it the most. But yeah, we can see here we're down to 14 seconds on those front two. You can see them even on the map now, even though we're turning around. So definitely the time's coming down, and that's perfect for me. Again, I'm saving as many watts as we can, sitting in draft, watching the climb. I am doing a little bit of standing and sitting again here, trying to spread the pressure from the cardio to the legs a little bit. Again, it's not been a great leg day, but you just got to do what you can. These are definitely catching the rest where you can on the flat part of this climb, and then on the hard part, standing and 600 plus watts there for a second, just doing what we need to do to drive up the climb and move back up the pack, then sit back, sort of sag a little bit more into the draft. Great news is down to 6 seconds. It looks like we're going to close these guys on castle, those two leads. Somebody shoots off the front. I do pop pace here. I'm hoping I can stay in draft, which we do. And here comes the banner. I'm not swapping out feather, I'm keeping feather, but I'm just trying to be at the front at this point, knowing that there's one more little pop right before you get to the flats in between here and temple. Right here's the one I'm talking about. Usually I have to kick a little power here, make sure we don't get, if you keep your speed up basically. Sometimes I guess wrong. This is another one of those times where I do, and I pop to the front and then just sort of off the power, sit back. At this point, back in the draft, hoping things are going to be calm again until the beginning of temple. And I can definitely use that rest. Castle wasn't too crazy, but again, a lot of just big bursts above FTP. My heart rate's 185. I need to bring that down before we start for sure. The good news is it seems like everybody else is on the same page. Definitely a lot of gray and blue here. Getting some fuel, all those sorts of things. Heart rate's starting to come down. I'm into the 160s. That's a good thing. That's also good news. Bad news as we start the KOM though is this pace is looking like it's going to be pretty darn aggressive. So as we get started here, those first two definitely jump out hard, and I push up over 8 watts a kilo. Just like, okay, let's get the pace up. Again, this is a dirt climb. It's somewhat steep. It's not as fast as the other ones. We're above 30 kilometers here. We're not going to stay that way. Certainly you got to push like 400, 500 watts almost to keep that sort of pace on this climb. But yeah, I burst up. There's a little bit of air, so I'm trying to let some folks get in front of me so I can, in theory, draft to them. And again, it's not the same 90 watts we're getting on the prior climbs, but I'll take even 20 or 30. I need every watt I can get on this climb. Still holding the feather. I'll stand and pop some speed again. I'm keeping the live audio on this as well because I'm definitely huffing and puffing. This is the pain part of the video. If you like to watch me suffer, this is the part. This is where the sacrifices are made. But yeah, I'm near 5 watts a kilo, 400 watts here. They're still pulling away. And this is where, in the prior climbs, I was pushing hard and it hurt, but we were staying with folks. Here I got 4 or 5 off the front. I'm standing and jacking some more power here. I'm like, they're gonna ride away if I don't do something. But even with that, they're still pulling space. And I'm starting to wonder at this point, and this is one of those things, it's a mental game. Do you close the gap, or this is where you burn your matches, right? But also, you don't want to implode here. And I'm starting to realize, as I let 2 more come past me, I'm like, maybe they can ride me up. But if they don't, that gap has gotten pretty big. And I don't know that I've got the watts to keep pushing like this and not blow up before the climb's over. We're not even, we've got this blue section coming up there in a little bit if you look at the climb HUD. But yeah, even those other 2, I'm sort of made a business decision at this point. The legs have not been good. We're going to sit back, not implode. We're going to try to catch what we can, but I've got to ride for a chase, and basically, minor places is sort of the thought here. If I try to push up to that at this point, it's not going to go well. So, yeah, sit in. It's unfortunate, but as this group comes through, though, one of those things that'll happen is, you saw my power, from red to yellow. What I don't need is for this group to drop me. That would be very unfortunate. So, suffer a little bit, push up, and whatever you got to do to sort of crest and get into this blue with some speed. That's what I'm looking to do. This climb is just, again, love-hate relationship with Shisa, and the main reason it's a love-hate relationship is Temple KOM. If you like to watch someone suffer, this is the part of the video for you. This is where the sacrifices are made. Seems like every time. Often for the front, like if I was racing, last time I raced this, I think it was in a 690 group for World Series. So with a top end of 690, I can be quite competitive on it. Now in this group, I'm realizing, especially with the watts that front group is, there's some A pluses in this race. There's no one's holding those sorts of watts up this climb unless they're A pluses. They were just conserving energy till they got it and striking when it makes the most sense. I mean, this is the selection point of Shisa. So, but again, even the chase group here is gapping me a little bit. That big section of red before I made the business decision, that definitely took something out of me. So I'm trying to recover as well as hold wheels, and it's not necessarily going well. What I have realized, though, is one of my benefits, I don't have great cardio. I've got good leg strength. So I can close gaps when I get into the steeper parts of the climb just by standing and pushing watts. And I am huffing and I am puffing. I'm sort of just getting, let me get my reserve here. But I know before I get to the top of this gap, I'm gonna hit some watts just to try to close. So just as I look at it, I'm like, it's sort of mental preparation, physical preparation. The gap's getting a little bit bigger. I'm trying to do just enough watts to keep that in place, but also make sure that I've got enough just central nervous system ability for legs to fire when we hit the top of this crest, so I can hit it with some power and close gap at that point. So here we go, in the red, hit the feather. This is the point. It's like, you got to close this gap or you're not going to be in the chase group. And at that point, it's not minor places or best of the rest. It's maybe a solo time trial. So use the feather, hit the watts, a little bit of rest on the blue, and then just use the rest of the feather here. Pop up the best I can. This is painful stuff. Again, they're even just short micro bursts, but it pops the watts up enough and it pops the speed up just to where you can start to see that gap come down a little bit. And I'm close enough now on a flat. We got to the top of the climb. I got to get them before we hit to the descent, but I'm like, we're gonna dig deep. There we go again, another sort of micro burst on the sprint. Reliving this is painful. We get to the banner though. We're good. We're clean. Still a little gap here. I got to close that. I got to empty that wind between us, but I feel like we're not in a bad place here. Picked up the feather. That's great news. Seeing that arrow pop off. Yeah, just another sort of microburst. I am gassed. 185 again on the heart rate. Not been a good leg day. This arrow comes past me. If I can grab that wheel, we just close together. We get on the descent. I'm feeling all right. There we go. Another microburst. Like we're gonna do it. They're pacing down, unfortunately. God, that climb. Sacrifices were made. It just always is abusive to me. I love it and I hate it. But we are safe, and again, the good thing about these climbs is there's a descent on the other side. But yeah, that one hurt.
That wasn't even fast. Oh.
And what I meant by that wasn't even fast was I think we went up at 551, or I went up at 551. I've gone up this more than a couple times in the 540 range, 540, 545 range. So 551 shouldn't have beat me up that bad. I think what happened was I was chasing those 520s at the beginning. Plus, it's not a good leg day. And yeah, I just got myself into a bad place. Fortunately, again, we latched onto the chase, and now we're in the descent, and it's just a matter of trying to ease in, settle up the best we can, and prepare for the final two climbs.
I just have to hide and recover and pray.
Fortunately, this is a pretty long descent, and there is plenty of opportunity to just sit in and almost push 0 watts here.
Oh my.
So I'm doing that. One thing I will notice, though, is there is a guy about 7 seconds up the road or so, 8 seconds up the road, who's in no man's land. He tried to go with the 520s and clearly couldn't. So one of the things I am doing, again, I do want to sit in and hide, but I am pushing to the front a couple times here, and I'm just trying to get the groups speed up, and then I'll fall to the back. And again, I'll do another push on, and then super tuck. All I'm doing on there, again, fairly quick burst, not taking too much out of me. You could argue maybe I should or shouldn't, but what I'm trying to do there is just keep the pace up, close the gap on that guy that's up the road a little bit, the guy that's sort of in no man's land. The A pluses, they're 30 second. We're not catching those folks, and there's a reason we got dropped, and there's a reason they're going to stay away. But just trying to keep the pace up a little bit reasonably so we can catch. We got here, and it seems to be working. Either he's sitting up, or just realizes he's not going to stay away. It's the right thing for him to do at this point. Just fall back to the group. Don't dangle. But at this point, looking good. I brought the heart rate down into the 150s. That's great. But there's no question that Temple took quite a bit out of me, and I definitely need to recover.
Just based on Temple, I do not have the best legs today. But I got to make the best of the legs I have. So, settle in.
And fortunately, we have plenty of time to do that settling in. Again, there's a long descent between Temple KOM and the next danger point, which is sort of a corkscrew climb. If you look at the bottom of the descent, there's that flat, and then there's a little bump. That's the next area. Sometimes you'll see some folks attack, push a little bit on the flats, or maybe even on the descent, but shouldn't be much danger. At least, I've recovered quite a bit down to the 150 heart range, so you see a little kick there. I'm not too stressed about it. The next things that I'm worried about are what's going to happen when we get to the Corkscrew Climb and then the final incline up into the Shisa Sprint. But if you look again, I'm at 111 watts of average draft. More importantly, my watt per kg average 3.2, and that's with all those crazy calm bursts and everything else. That's something we're going to look at the end of the race as well. But we have arrived at that little bump in the road, and here it is again. What I try to do here is just pick up speed, still tail gun, but definitely put some power down to come over the crest and maintain speed. Knowing right now this corkscrew, just want to stay on the inside if I can, but in draft, keep power, not drive to the front. I am standing, trying to drive power. I definitely don't want to get dropped off the back here, but I'm not trying to make a move or break anything here either. I'm just trying to, 20, 30 watts of draft, that's great. We're happy with it. Sit in, hover, make sure no danger happens near the front. If somebody went here, I would definitely grab the wheel. Let's just put it that way. But we make it to the top. We're clean. I kind of fall to the front a little bit when the power comes off, but I'll sit back down and get to the descent. And yeah, even though that corkscrew wasn't too bad, it definitely bumped my heart rate above 180. So I'm trying to drop the heart rate back down into the 170s, 160s if possible. That would be great. But yeah, tail gun set up. This long drag up to the Shisa Sprint is gonna be a banger, so I'm just trying to be in a good spot. And the right spot on this climb, as far as I'm concerned, we're 2 kilometers left. This is a long drag. The right spot is at the back. There's some folks at the front popping feathers, pushing some pretty big watts. I want no part of that. I've got a feather. I'm saving the feather for after the blue section to the final pop before the descent into the Shisa sprint. So yeah, there's some red here. I'm definitely having to push watts to stay with these guys. It does corkscrew around, so I'm trying to stay on the inside, but on draft, just cut the distance. But draft is most important. Again, down to 30 to 40 watts here, but there's sections of this where it's, as you can see, it's climbing up now. It's getting faster, 60 plus watts, and in the blue sections it'll pop up 70, 80 or more. But I do not want to be front wheel here. A little bit of in between riders there for a second, but 60 plus you can see there, 40 watts. If it peaks up into the orange sections and the blue sections, when it gets fast, you're catching, slow down a little bit, still 50 watts. But right here's the part that I'm concerned about. You can see there's yellow, orange, and then a little blue, and then that big little steep section before the descent from the Shisa. I'm getting pushed a little to the inside here. I don't really want my nose in the wind, but I'm also trying to set up and get ready. Fall to the back here, and then what I want to do is hit the feather into that orange section. I do pop it early because it lasts long enough, and I don't want to be fumbling around for it. Right now I'm waiting for their power ups. I just want to be ready to go. Let them lead me out, and then slingshot over the crest right through them. And the gap is established, and I kind of sit up. I wasn't really paying attention. There's a guy 5 seconds up. I didn't realize he had caught him, and he does sprint at the end. Probably wouldn't have been able to shut him down, but if I could have kept up on power, and I see him now, and I sort of kick up. But yeah, it's over. Good news is I got the gap on the back, sort of best of the rest. I almost caught someone at the front, and it's not a bad result really, given how the legs felt and how badly tempo went. I'm glad I was able to recover and put a kick in at the end. And here are the Zwift power results. As you can see, the 3 that were off the front that really crushed me, those were A+ riders, and even some of the folks in the chase were A+ as well. So I feel pretty good about the result. Also, I said it a couple times during the video, but 3.3 watts per kilo average. Compare that to the other folks. Not bad draft efficiency, and I definitely needed it today. Again, the legs weren't good. I needed every bit of savings and efficiency it could get, so that I could kick that sprint at the end and close it out.
Wow. Maybe I hit 1,000. That was a gut check if I did. Oh. A+ has crushed me, but I raced well for the race I had. I'm going to keep riding this, but I do want to see real quick. I think we hit 1,000 watts at the end. Held 920. It wasn't a bad sprint. Hurt. Weekly goal. That's always nice. This really hurt more than it should have. Or this. The tempo hurt way more than it should have, if we're honest. This hurt, but it should have. Yeah, I don't know what happened on tempo. I just did not have the legs. I couldn't have stuck with the A's, but I was having trouble sticking with the chase. It was all I could do to hold on for dear life.
And the metrics and intervals kind of tell the same story. You can see I have my numbers input correctly. So to see W-Bal not go to 0 when I was clearly at my limit or beyond my limit on tempo, normally that will go to 0 when I'm pushed that hard, and it doesn't here. My heart rate also doesn't get to max, which it normally would on an effort like that. So we're clearly a little fatigued. We'll get some rest. We'll take a day off the bike, take a light day on Monday, and then Tuesday we'll get back to hitting it again.